Welcome to Game & Grains, the whiskey gaming channel. I'm your player one, Richard. We're just shy of 50 days into the new year and we're already starting to see limited release bottles and newly released bottles popping up in stores everywhere. I know that in my area there's already talks that Penelope Havana is already on the shelf. And there's rumors swirling that this year's batches of Jack Daniel's 10-year, 12-year, and 14-year are on pallets and ready to ship out. So that got me thinking, what are some bottles that I will actively be hunting during 2026? I started to compile a list and I wanted to share that with you. Perhaps you'll see some common things on here and maybe one or two that you can add to your list. So grab your controllers, pour yourself a dram, and let's get into it. It wouldn't be a Game & Grains video without giving myself a pour, and so today I'm going to be drinking from this freshly cracked Old Forester 1924. Now this is not this year's release, this is the 2025 release that I acquired at the beginning of last year. I bought it with the intent of making it be one of my first bottles to review, but by the time I finally pulled the trigger on the channel, this bottle had been pushed to the back of the cabinet and I had newer and more intriguing bottles to share. Now, the 2026 release has already started hitting shelves, at least in my area. If you go back and watch my bourbon hunt video, when I went to Kirby Wine and Spirits, they did have several bottles behind the shelf, right around $120. Now, we're not going to unpack this bottle like we would traditionally do, but I do want to let you know that it has a 10-year age statement and it comes in at 100 proof. Now, I'm going to go ahead and sit this off to the side so that way I can enjoy the whiskey and you can see my face. Now, when I started compiling this list, I really didn't go in any particular order. It's not going to be a top 10. More, it's going to focus in on a couple of bottles that I'm really looking at, but more specific towards distilleries. I'm still fairly new to the whiskey game, and so there are a lot of things out there that I have not tried. And so I'm really looking to broaden my palate. And so that's a lot of what you're going to see on this list. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into it. All right, I mentioned it in the intro, but the first thing that I am looking to get is going to be more Jack Daniel's, specifically the next batches of the 10, 12, and 14 year. Now, I'm going to put a little asterisk by that because I spent way too much on these bottles here. I believe if we're talking about MSRP for the 10 year, if I recall, it's right around $70 or $89, $79, $89. I believe this one was right around the 12 year, I think $99, $109, somewhere around there. I could be wrong, but right around those price points. I paid, and I'm sad to admit, right around $150 for each of these. I heard that they were in the area. I knew I could get my hands on one. I didn't have to fight people to get it. And so I was willing to pay a little bit more for that bottle. Now that I have them, if I come across them again, if the price is right, I would love to pick up the next batch. The 10 was my favorite out of the two. Unfortunately, I did not get to try batch one of that 14 year, but if I can get my hands on one of those, I would love to. Another thing that you see up here is this is the Sweet Mash Distillery Series. Lots of people in the area were talking about it. I decided to pick up myself a bottle, and now you can see that I'm almost halfway through my second bottle. I'm going to have to find another one. They're starting to kind of become just very hard to find now in the area. They were everywhere and everybody, I guess, is purchasing them. So more distillery series is some stuff that I would like to get into. One thing that has evaded me has been a Coy Hill or a Tanyard Hill. I recently had one of my local stores that I frequent did a unicorn hunt. I get emails from them, but it doesn't go to my main inbox. By the time I read the email that that unicorn hunt was taking place, it was already multiple hours. And of course, they had a Tanyard Hill, I believe, fairly close to MSRP that somebody had found. So I would love to get my hands on one of those for a reasonable price. So first on the list, Jack Daniel's. Next on my list is one of my all-time favorites, which is none other than Old Dominick. Now, they have quite a few whiskeys that are coming out, but just a few that I have labels for. And I will display them probably somewhere up here. The first two that are coming out that I'm excited about are whiskeys that are a part of their Staved Finished series. These are single barrel whiskeys. It looks like they follow their traditional mash bill of 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. However, they're finished, one in French oak staves and the other one in American oak staves. So even though it's that same mash bill, those staves are going to give slight variations in the flavor profile. Now, they do have a couple of others that I was able to find labels for that are going to be a part of their R&D program. Now, R&D can only be purchased in their actual distillery. Lucky for me, I am in the Memphis area, and so I can hopefully make my way down to grab them. The first one that I am looking at is going to be their Tennessee Straight Whiskey, but it is a double oaked. So it is finished in a new oak charred barrel. I love a good double oak. If you actually watched a couple of videos ago, I took 3 different double oaks and pitted them together in a blind to see if I could pick out my favorite. So I'd love to try to get a hold of that Old Dominick and maybe see if I can do another blind. They also have something that they're calling their hybrid cask. So I just referenced their 2 stave finished series single barrels. Well, their R&D hybrid cask is finished in both American and French oak hybrid barrels. So it's almost like the best of both worlds of those single barrels. So now this isn't all of the R&D or labels that they'll probably come out with. These are just the ones that I have found. But again, you know that I am a huge fan of what Old Dominick is doing. And of course, I have to support my hometown. Now, before we get into this next bottle, one thing that I should mention is that all the labels that you're seeing somewhere up here on the top, I've taken from, with permission, an Instagram page that is called Coming Whiskey. A gentleman named Jacob Kiper, who is a big whiskey enthusiast. He even has a website, I believe it is called drinkhacker.com, where he does reviews of different whiskeys. He is able to find, through some magic of the internet, all these different labels of upcoming whiskey, and he just posts them on his Instagram page. So if you're ever interested in seeing about what whiskeys are coming up and available, Coming Whiskey on Instagram is a great resource. So thank you, Jacob Kiper, if you happen to watch this video, for allowing me to borrow some of your pictures to include in here. All right, moving right along, another hometown favorite is Blue Note. Now, I love Blue Note. Their Uncut Unfiltered happens to be one of my favorite. Their honey cask, honey rye cask, and their honey bourbon cask are also some of my favorites as well. So looking into the future though, they have a couple that are coming out that I'm really excited about. The first is going to be, they are planning on releasing a wheated mash bill. If you're not familiar with a wheated mash bill, that wheat usually takes the place as the secondary grain. So I would imagine they would take out the rye, add the wheat, a nice, softer, more approachable whiskey. So I'm excited about that one. And then they're also going to have a toasted finished whiskey. So that is really exciting as well. If you've never had a Blue Note, there is kind of like a, I'm not trying to say this in a bad way, but there's a bit of like a funk to it. I really enjoy it, so I'm wondering how that flavor profile will play with the toasted. And then of course we can't forget about their honey cask. Now there's another website that I refer to. It's called Breaking Bourbon. Another great resource if you want to see. They have a calendar of upcoming releases. They do reviews. They have press releases all there. But it looks like their honey cask, Blue Note honey cask, will be coming out around September or October of 2026. So definitely be on the lookout for those. I've had the 2024 and the 2025, both the bourbons and the ryes. The ryes are by far my favorite, but the bourbon is just as good. So some great things coming out of Blue Note to look forward to. All right, along the same vein as Blue Note, we have Green River. Now, Blue Note, if I recall, actually sources their whiskey or gets their whiskey from Green River. So Green River has a couple of bottles that I'm really excited about as well. First is going to be their honey finished bourbon. Now, on these this label here, it does say that it's going to be at 92 proof. One of the things that Cumming Whiskey says when you first log on to their IG page is that sometimes companies will use those numbers as a placeholder. You're really looking at just kind of the overall label, not so much as the specs at the bottom. So, but if it is true, it's 92 proof. Green River has pretty reasonable prices. So I would imagine a honey finished Green River whiskey at 92 proof would be pretty reasonable as far as cost goes. They're also going to release a toasted double oak. Now I have on my paper here that it's going to come in at 115.1 proof. Again, that was on the placeholder that I had, so it could vary depending on when it comes out. But I've had a couple of Green River products. One that I really want to try that's just haven't picked up a bottle yet is their foolproof. I've heard that that is actually pretty good. I've had their weeded also. That was really good. So both that honey and that toasted double oak are some things to keep an eye out for. Now, of course, I had to put one of my all-time favorite distilleries, Crittenden's Cut Above, on my list. Now, Matt over there just reopened his tasting room. They have some really cool bottles that you can only get at the distillery. There is a blackberry mead. Now they escape me, but there's some really cool ones there that I wish I could make it down to the south of Mississippi to grab. But they have one that's coming out that is called Dog Man. And on the label it's described as bourbon whiskey finished in a maple syrup barrel with cherry wood staves added. That, just thinking about it, is making me salivate. The things that they do at Crittenden's Cut Above are just absolutely fantastic. I don't think I've come across one that I'm not a fan of. Right now, the Wampus Cat is one that I find that I continue to go back to. I really wish I could get my hands on some of those other ones, but you can't go wrong with them. I'm sure that there'll be more coming out in the future, but this is just the one that we know of. And of course, if you can see the picture here, he does some really cool label designs. And as you know, I'm a sucker for a label. So anything Crittenden's Cut Above that's coming out, I know that I'm going to try to get my hands on it. Next on my list is going to be Hard Truth. Now, I had been looking for a bottle of Hard Truth for quite some time, walked into a liquor store that's a little far away from the house, and came across this Sweet Mash Rye and absolutely fell in love with it. So I've been on the hunt for anything hard truth that I can get my hands on. Now, specifically, this one label that I found, again, I'll include the picture here, is the Master Distiller's Reserve Dark Roast Rye. Now, with it saying Master Distiller's Reserve, it leads me to believe that maybe it's going to be a distillery exclusive, but just reading the description on the label sounds really good. Our dark roast rye burst with layered notes of toffee, custard, cafe mocha, and clove. A palette of butterscotch, chocolate, and rye led a decadent finish of fudge, brulee, coffee, pepper, and oak. That just sounds in and of itself just fantastic. So I'd love to get my hands on that particular bottle. If not, just more of this just hard truth rye, any sort of finished products that they have would definitely be something that I would love to get my hands on. Next on the list are American single malts. Yes, I did just name an entire subcategory of whiskey, and it's my list, so I do what I want with it. Now, I have a couple of bottles from my collection, one from Virginia Distilling Company and one from Stranahan's. So starting off with this guy, they released a 12-year Founders Edition that I would love to have a pour from, or even a bottle. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of Stranahan's in my area, but they are coming out with a 14-year Takai, I think I said that right, cask finished bottle. I think in my area, the only two that I've seen are the standard yellow label as well as the blue, I think it's like Peak something label. Now, Virginia Distilling Company, I would love to get any bottle from their brewery Coalition series. They usually do a lot of Imperial Stout beer finishes. They did one last year that was supposed to be in a gingerbread. I would have loved to try that. That just sounds amazing. But anything from those guys. Speaking of American single malt, Whiskey Del Bach. They have a couple in theirs that I would love to try. It's called their Distiller's Cut, and they actually do them by seasons. I know they do a spring, they have a fall, I believe, and even a winter. I'm not sure if they do a summer or not, but I've heard that those are actually supposed to be good. So something from Whiskey Del Bach. Again, that same vein, Cedar Ridge is another one that I would love to try. They do something called their quintessential whiskeys. I believe, if I remember correctly, Murphy Quint is their master distiller, and he does some really cool releases as well. I would love to try one of those at some point in time in the future, possibly this year. So American single malts, a whole category, has made it onto the list. Last but not least is Pursuit United. I have drank the Pursuit United Kool-Aid, so to speak, and I am trying to get my hands on anything and everything made by those guys. Without going into it too much, if you've never heard of Pursuit Spirits or Pursuit United, it's just two guys that started a podcast over a decade ago. They've met many just influential and important people in the whiskey world who really inspired them and encouraged them to start their own distillery. Now, they are an NPD, a non-producing distillery, so that means that they have their mash bills made at other distilleries. Bardstown is one, Five Finger Lakes is another, and then I think Sagamore is an additional distillery that they work with for their rye, and they're making some really cool things. This double oak is probably one of my favorites. You saw me pit this against several other double oaks in a video a while ago. Even though it didn't come out on top, it certainly is one of my favorites. In fact, this bottle has got maybe about a quarter left in it. Now, specifically with things that are coming out in the future, they do have one that I was able to find a label for that is really cool. It's called a Sakura Bloom. It is a blend of straight bourbon whiskeys finished with Japanese cherry blossom barrels. Now, I love looking at the cherry blossoms when they bloom. We got to go to Washington, D.C. Years ago. The family and I got to walk through the park and see all the blooms and stuff. The smells were just amazing. So I would imagine a whiskey that is finished in those barrels would have just similar amazing notes to them. Now, I'm looking forward to anything Pursuit. The one that I'm currently after is a twice toasted bourbon. I think I have my eyes on it or know where to get it. So hopefully that will be happening in the next couple of days or weeks. Now, I know that I didn't have some things that, everybody tends to hunt for each year. I left off the BTAC. I left off the, I think it's the Penelope Legacy. I left off all the Wellers and things like that. I'm okay without having some of those. And the BTAC are going to be bottles that, to me, at this point in my whiskey journey, are just something that are unobtainable for one reason or another, whether that being able to actually locate a bottle or having to pay, unfortunately, in many cases, those secondary prices. Would I love to have some of those bottles? Of course. Do I need them right now? No. This list was really comprised of things that I feel are going to be more obtainable for me to go out and seek. So I realized that I was kind of all over the place. I really mentioned distilleries and an entire subcategory. But again, this is my list, and these are things that I am going to go out and look for. Now, I'm sure that I left off some cool and amazing things. So if there's something that you think that I might like, or should be searching for, leave it in the link, the comments below. Heck, even I want to know what you are looking for. What are some of your bottles that you are going to try to secure in 2026? Leave those down in the comments below. Maybe we can help each other out. As always, be sure that you like this video. This really just helps the channel grow. As of right now, I am sitting at, I think, close to 140 subscribers. Now, I mentioned that I wanted to do something really cool and big to celebrate my 100 subscriber landmark or milestone. Unfortunately, I tend to drag my feet when it comes to these sort of things. So I may not do a live. I still want to celebrate in some way. So one of the things that I wanted to do is actually crack open this guy. This is a rare character single barrel from a local store. It is a TKO coming in at 151.58 proof. 9-year, 7-month straight rye whiskey. It's actually called the Reisenberg. So a little Mad Hatter style with the character from Breaking Bad. I would love to crack this guy open, and in fact, if and when I do, somebody's going to get a sample of this. I don't know how. I may do a drawing. I may decide to do that live. Not 100% sure yet. Just right now, life is just kind of crazy. But some point in time in the near future, we're going to be at least giving out a sample of this, maybe some other things as well. So with that being said, if you want to know when those things are going to happen, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, share with friends and family, help me continue to grow this channel. My next goal is going to be 250 people. I would love to get 250 subscribers. We're going to set the date, why not say from 1 year of when the channel started. So right around I would love to get to 250 subscribers. So let's help this channel continue to grow. All right. Thank you, as always, for sticking until the end. I'm your favorite player, One Richard. Have a good one.